What up, Zach?
Hey Marcus, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm well, I'm okay. I'm okay.
It's
It's
interesting morning, I'm sure.
it's been a morning. It's definitely been a morning. I still haven't had coffee. I'm having a terrible Nescafe instant coffee because I was like, you know what? I
Mmm,
have to go live. We have to talk about this.
tasty.
Yeah. This is the first time that we've actually spoken directly.
Is it? I mean, maybe that really just goes to show how Twitch is, because I kind of feel like we've had conversations before, but it has just mostly been you talking and
Yeah, it's
me
usually me
responding in
talking in
chat.
my
So
chat or you
it's
talking in
nice to,
yours.
right, exactly. Yeah. So, wow. Wow. Look at that.
God,
World's first right here on Zach's stream.
It's true. It's true. You probably have some direct insight into these changes or some direct experience. And as I've been saying since hours ago, uh, it feels like there's nobody at Twitch that is really thinking about creators anymore.
Sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, can we actually talk about the platform versus service
Please, yeah, by all
thing real
means.
quick? I'm curious, what do you think Twitch is? Right? Like, forget what Twitch says, what do you think Twitch is? A platform or a service?
Uh, I think it was formerly trying to be a platform where you could kind of like have a community and have communication with people and like build something that existed on Twitch so that people wouldn't leave to go to Discord or Gilded. But right now, I think it is uh, I think service is the correct terminology in that I believe it's a place where you have a career elsewhere and you use Twitch as part of that to go, hey, here's an opportunity for me to actually connect with you guys in a more one-to-one level. But ultimately, it's still a tool that you would use of other content creation sites like YouTube or TikTok or to have a more
Sure.
direct conversation in a more personable way.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. I wanted to get some context. So,
Sure.
here's like one, just something to think about, right? I think that we can all agree that there was a period of time where Twitch and community were they were hand in hand, right? Whether
Mhm.
that was Twitch in the overall community or individual creator sub communities. And that was probably strongest when people were looking at Twitch as, a platform, right? Well, roll around to 2016 and guess who doesn't like the word platform?
Guess who?
Yeah, get who doesn't like the word platform?
Oh, I have to pick somebody at Twitch or do I have to pick somebody at Amazon?
Well, it is Amazon, right? Like that, what they provide is not necessarily platform,
Yeah.
right? They provide services. AWS is a service, like it
Hmm.
literally has services in the name. So first and foremost, like I don't care what anyone says to me, and this was probably one of the hardest habits to break at Twitch, but
Right.
I'm just like, I'm not going to call something a service when it's a platform,
Right.
because I never stopped looking at it as a community platform.
Right.
I understand that there's some like really interesting nuances there, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think like this is one of those that sort of got lost in translation, because suddenly anytime Twitch was referenced as a platform, it was like, oh no, you gotta change that to service, right?
Right.
Like we can't be calling this a platform. But that inadvertently or indirectly also started moving Twitch away from the community aspects
Yeah.
of why a platform is successful. And the thing is that, like, frankly, how can it be a service in a lot of ways if it is continuing to do things to build connections or to, right? And you're absolutely right. A lot of creators, they're live on Twitch and the community comes to life, but the moment they go off air, where does things go, right?
Right. Yep.
Discord or a Patreon or a fan house or whatever that might be. So yeah, that's absolutely true, but they're still building tools that that make Twitch a platform. So anyway, the only reason I bring it up is because it's like an identity crisis in a lot of
Yep.
ways.
Yep.
Because I think if you are a platform, you are prioritizing community more than if you're a service, right? Service is just like, we just need customers, right?
Yep.
And there's plenty of services that don't need to build community.
Right.
My problem with that is like, I think that's a fucking dumb strategy. Like, I don't know what else to say, because it deprioritizes the community and the users
Yeah.
overall.
Oh,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that fact. I don't know when exactly it happened. To me, it feels like 2018, 2019, when there was this kind of change in terms of what the focus actually was. But I entirely agree with you. I do think that a platform of content creators building community, and Twitch often does say they're a community of communities in the interviews that they do with Ad Age and all these different places.
Yeah.
But then the actions of what is happening on Twitch are clearly that it is kind of going for service, and so it for me, I just kind of look at what they're doing, and while I would love it to continue to be a platform, I don't think that's where the focus is. And so when I read that and when I started to understand that, it really changed my interpretation of how I actually looked at the decisions that were being made. It made me kind of think a little bit differently in terms of, well, why would they do this? This doesn't benefit creators. And then I go, oh, but if I reframe it as they're not trying to benefit creators. They have a business that is owned by Amazon and probably trying to make more money. So I kind of understand a little bit more why they're making these changes. And that's when I became a lot more vocal in my community and on Twitter to some degree about saying, guys, get on YouTube, get on TikTok, get a Patreon, start a fan house, because it was becoming increasingly clear that creators are kind of on their own.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point right there, I think that's been one of the really interesting growing pains for Twitch, because primarily, what is Twitch great at? Well, it's got one of the most robust video live low latency video distribution systems in like on the planet. Like, it's really fucking impressive, the infrastructure that is in place. And so if you look at it completely from a engineering and technical standpoint, like 1,000%.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's really amazing. So, but that's kind of what it needs to have its North Star be. I mean, could you imagine a world where Twitch in 2014, 2015, like, well, we could go into like buying curse over Discord, but like, there could have been a moment where a beacon of light, an epiphany, if you will, to say, wow, maybe there is a way to provide like Patreon or fan house-esque services on platform that could have a better sub split, because one of the reasons why the sub split is so much in favor of Twitch is because the live low latency streaming infrastructure is expensive as hell. But it is possible that there could be an extension, right? That, of course, then we're talking platform here. So I find that aspect really fascinating, because I think there's always been this sort of delicate battle within Twitch between like, well, our product is live streaming, but in reality, what created growth on Twitch and what ultimately led to an acquisition was like the community and the engagement and the brand loyalty, right? And there was not a moment in time where Twitch decided, let's double down on that. Instead, it was kind of going the other way.
Opposite direction,
So I kind of went all over there, but yeah, it's kind of a fascinating thing, because
it's funny you say that. I was on my podcast, I was chatting with DJ Fluffkins, and he was telling us a story about how they were considering creating in terms of the creator side, was considering a Patreon-like service or extension of Twitch that people could then sell to their communities as kind of an upsell from a sub in your chat. You would have additional things that you could offer on top of that. And so it's interesting to see that they were kind of ahead of the game on a lot of these at least in the creator side that you were working in, you guys were ahead of the game on almost everything that a lot of other businesses are thriving and doing right now.
I mean, look, there's also going back to the whole cursed Discord thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I was never involved with mergers and acquisitions,
Mm-hmm.
but if you were to ask me, what do you think are some of the biggest failures that Twitch has ever had over the years? 1,000% not buying Discord. Now there's a lot of aspects to that, because like Discord has always valued themselves very high, and that was a
Sure.
value acquisition for Curse and all these things. But imagine a world where Twitch and Discord are actually intertwined. Like,
Yeah.
this is a world I want to live in.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, because what's the biggest problem that Twitch faces right now as a quote unquote service is that when you're not streaming, your fucking channel's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine a world where suddenly you're off air, but guess what? It goes off to Discord. Now Twitch has no piece of that pie. They have no additional ways to wrap in tools that could benefit the community, or that could, keep community members connected on some level. And so, right, there's a lot of reasons, and I'm sure there's people that are even smarter than me that'd be like, well, here's 10 other reasons. But it's like, yeah, but from a user experience, in terms of like what they're trying to accomplish, how do I continue to build my community once my stream goes off air? Like Curse didn't facilitate that.
Right.
Curse probably facilitate a lot of other things, like wiki pages that you could embed more ads on and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, right, there was a big opportunity there. And I think that was very short-sighted. I think that the community aspect was very much de-emphasized when making that decision. And probably, right, that was a decision that was made with the head and no heart at all.
Yeah. It's it really. How do I word this? How do I word this carefully? It feels like I don't even know how to word this.
Word it. Come on, talk it out with us, Zach. Come on.
I'm trying.
There's something there.
It feels to me like there's, again, going back to that service idea of having just a thing that you use as part of your career. The fact that there's nothing to do with your stream doesn't seem like it's a smart design for a service, even, because if you want people to continue to use the service, and I guess that's the idea, right, is that once your stream ends, you go to another stream and you continue watching that stream, and to hell with any other community things that happen from that existing community. So that channel is now completely idle, but that doesn't seem like a good plan to retain people. Like, if you look at Facebook...
That's good for Twitch. That's real good for Twitch, but that's not good for fostering communities.
Is it good for Twitch, though? Because, like,
I mean, hypothetically, it's good for Twitch if you look at a bottom line being like, oftentimes you would say, who are like the competitors to Twitch? Well, anything that dominates time or eyeballs, right? For example, Netflix in a lot of ways might be... right, in contention with Twitch, because if someone stops watching Zach and then goes and watches Love and Blind on Twitch, that doesn't benefit Twitch. But if someone is watching Zach and then goes, Zach's over, I'm gonna raid, I'm going to Technic now, or I'm gonna watch Cesarean or whatever that is, right, that is beneficial to Twitch because you're staying on the platform. Right. And I always loved that Netflix would always say, right, that like our biggest competition is sleep. And I love that, right? I love the thought process that goes into that, because they basically want people to watch Netflix all of the time. And so like sleep is this one thing that it's like we can't get the time when people sleep. But to the point, right, there are decisions that need to be made in terms of businesses decisions that push organizational goals, right? More people watching for longer versus business decisions that help creators thrive, right?
Right.
It's very easy to see that those two can become, that whole thing can become very messy, because you're
Right.
either on one side where you're like, yep, show me the money, or you're on the other side like I often was, which is like, show the creators the money, right? Like, how are we benefiting the communities, but then also serving these organizational
Right.
goals? And that's how brand communities thrive. And that's how Twitch's brand communities thrive for such a long time, is that it took all of that into consideration. So, I mean, we've kind of been all over here. I wanted to throw out there, the history of the partner program is really interesting,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I know you and I have kind of talked about it. You've tuned in on some streams a few times
Yep.
when I've talked about it, and like when I look at this article that's come out and aware of some of the changes that are about to happen,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that kind of chaps my ass the most is that this is like 6 years too late,
Right.
right? Like the partner program inception back in 2011, 2012 was like a critical milestone for creators, because it really solidified a way
Yep.
in which creators now were able to actually turn this into a business,
Yep.
because it was just like when I streamed earlier, it was just a hobby. We were like, how the fuck do you turn this into a business, right? So the
Right.
partner program played such a huge role in that.
Yeah.
But outside of affiliates, how much has the partner program actually changed since 2012? Spoiler alert, it just fucking hasn't,
Yeah.
right? Adding ambassadors is not like a big effect on the partner program. Affiliates was probably the largest, right? But
Sure.
really that was just a way for Twitch to be able to monetize more users that weren't necessarily partners, right? Because
Right.
there was a ceiling to partners. But with the ad incentives piece, I always say that I think creators tend to ask the wrong questions sometimes.
Okay.
And with the ad, so with the ad pieces, we need to kind of go back in time for a second and
Okay.
get in the time machine, right?
All
Before
right.
subscriptions, ads, they were massive. They were huge impact. Like
Okay.
creators were making a lot of money off of ads. And partially because is initially we were all in revenue splits with advertising. All right.
Right.
So
And it was 50-50, right?
it was 50-50, right? So for a time, that was quite amazing, right? Like good CPMs meant holy moly, right? You had a stream, and you could make tens of thousands of dollars on ads in a way that you just could not, do it before. So what ended up happening between 2011 and like 2012 is that the CPMs, actually 2009 and 2012, is that the CPMs started drastically going down.
Okay.
And so creators were like, damn, what I was just making several $1,000s a few months ago, now I'm making like nothing. And so as a response to this, Twitch said, you're right. The landscape of ad revenue is changing. CPMs are not as high as they were, right? They have their own fluctuations. So we're going to protect our creators, and we're going to create a flat rate CPM, right? Initially, that was $5. In some cases, it was $3.50. And I'm sure you've heard both of those thrown around.
Yes.
That was 2012. 2012. 10 fucking years ago, man. And here we are, and for the last several years, conversations about like, how are we restructuring this for the status quo with a group of community members and creators that is going to be beneficial to them. And I'm sitting here going like, well, rev split. Like, hello, that was what we as creators early on were, we were like, oh my gosh, like ads have huge value.
Yeah.
I would run ads all the time if I got that level of value. I'm just going to drop something here.
Okay.
Over the course of the last 8 years, there's been some, let's just say, experiments where some creators were given rev split instead of that flat rate CPM. Zach, you would not believe how much money some of these creators are making.
Like 10 times, 100 times?
Oh, maybe 50 times.
Oh my God, okay.
And so on one hand, internally, I'm sitting here going like, I get it, right? If Twitch has a higher CPM, but flat rate is $5 or $3.50, they're coming out of that one definitely on top.
Yeah.
So it's a weird decision because Twitch would be making less ad revenue, but the creator would benefit so much more. Now, here's where the chicken and the egg thing happens. That's going to incentivize me to run more ads.
Definitely.
If I'm like, oh my God. And there was times where I was just like, man, if we could just show creator dashboards of like, hey, here's a creator that has a rev split versus a flat rate CPM. Creators would be like, holy shit, I'm running ads every single day at this much. And I'm going to right? Because a part of the problem with ads is how do you incorporate them in? Well, the answer is like, I don't want to incorporate them in if they're not going to bring any value. And frankly, the ads incentive program is exactly that. It's not value. No one is looking at that and being like, wow, I cannot believe. And so this has been something I've struggled with a lot because I feel like Twitch, and I take equal responsibility, right? As Twitch was growing, I guess there wasn't enough forward thinking to say like, what is Twitch doing to constantly stay in the forefront of what the partnership program was? Because it was this incredibly innovative thing, early on, right, at its inception, and it continued to be, but there was never this sort of ongoing attention on how are we evolving it? Like, what are the next steps? I mean, this is clear with the whole thing about partner managers, right? At one point, you were a partner, you got a partner manager. Like, no one knows now. How do you get partner? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's the history of ads and some of the things that have happened to me are really good indicators that show like this is almost it's almost like a floundering, right? Like, like Twitch got pushed into the lake and is now trying to figure out how to swim because they're being forced to, right? And it just makes me sad because if this was something that was looked at over time, and I think like maybe things would be in a much better spot that were both beneficial to Twitch and beneficial to its creators. But currently, Twitch is in a situation where they need creators to run more ads. They need to make more money. But creators are not going to run ads unless there is value to the ads. So it's like, unless Twitch shows value, creators aren't going to do that. And if creators aren't going to run ads, then Twitch is going to try to figure out more ways for it to happen. And it's like two people arguing about completely different things,
Sounds like a pretty good representation of society at this point as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ads incentive program, like the amazing thing about that, I've been analyzing a lot of that data, and it's remarkable to see how poor those offers actually are. Like in many cases, people just having pre-rolls run on their stream is actually more money, according to their previous month, than what the ads incentive to run an ad every single hour is offering.
I'm in the exact same boat. Yep, absolutely.
And that's not like a rare outlier. That's almost the rule. From the data that I've collected, it shocked me when that first happened. I was like, okay, ads incentive program, they're probably going to overpay. It'll probably be like 5 times as much as you would make just from running ads yourself, and like, because the idea being that the long-term impact of people running additional ads is that their audience get used to it, they understand how to take breaks and incorporate it into their streams. It becomes normalized so that future generations of Twitch viewers will then completely understand, oh, ads are just part of the experience, and it won't be this kind of like, this is interruptive and terrible and awful. It'll just get adjusted to it. And so Twitch overpays for the short term for the long-term impact of it being normalized like it is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And when the numbers did not align with that going in belief that I had, I was shocked. I could not believe it. I was like, I don't know how that decision gets made to offer on par or less than what people are just getting from
I'll
pre-rolls.
I'll tell you how the decision gets made. It gets made because no one is actually asking the creators about the values for ads.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, I'm sure there's someone internally who's like, actually, we did a bunch of user research. It's like, nah, it's way deeper
Mm-hmm.
than that. You know, to me, I look at this and I have the benefit of being able to look at the landscape like before Twitch, during Justin TV, and as Twitch launched, and then working at Twitch, and then, you know, the evolution of the sub split and
Mm-hmm.
and then the flat rate CPM. But like one of the hardest problems that I felt, and I'm sure many others shared this frustration, is that there seemed to be a absolute disconnect between this idea that, look, you want creators to run more ads.
Right.
Like, you have to show them value if that is going to happen, because what has been established over the last 6 years is that there are no value with ads. And you can't just expect the creator community to like change their minds overnight, right? When it comes to those sort of things. That's why when I, you know, looked at some of the experiments of like an ad split versus a CPM, to me, I'm just like, well, this shows value to creators, right? This would be the way to go. And, you know, someone asked a question earlier. I think it was a great question. I'm trying to see if I can find it here really quick in your chat. Damn it, it was just there. But it was the right question, which is, what is Twitch's CPM? Right?
Yeah.
And that's the question that I wish every creator was asking, like, hey, we're on a flat rate. What are you getting, Twitch? Because then it could be very clear, like, oh, so I would be making more money if I was on a rev split.
Yep.
Versus a flat rate CPM.
Yep.
And I apologize to whoever. Oh, it was Joe. He says, what's the actual percentage split? And I think like that's the variable that people don't know.
Yeah, well, again, there's a lot of things that creators don't know about. A lot of things. I was doing the math on over the last year how much I got for sub splits, and I've worked out for myself that I make, I think it was $2.09 per sub on average.
Mm-hmm.
And that's significantly less than a 50% split of a $5 sub. Now, of course, that doesn't factor for local sub pricing and fees and stuff like that. But there's no way for me to find that out. There's no way to find out how much I'm paying in fees because people are paying with PayPal or they're paying with credit card, or and then there's no way of knowing how many of these subs actually came from this location or this location, and so that's why I'm getting a lesser amount for that. So the idea that I get $2.49 or that creators get 50% is actually wrong. If you're expecting to get a $5 sub and you live in the United States or Canada or whatever, you're not actually getting that much. And so the same is also true of ads, in that if we don't know what Twitch is getting and we're getting this amount, is that actually a fair amount? Is that a reasonable split? But we don't know. We're kept in the dark.
That is exactly right.
It often feels like the stats that exist. And by the way, I learned this the other day about the dashboard. Again, there's nobody really even teaches you anything here. Is that you can actually click on various moments in your stream and find out exactly what happened in that moment, why you had a spike in viewership. You can switch this to go to chatters and see how many people actually chatted in a moment. And like, nobody tells us this. I have no information about this. I literally just learned this. So it often feels like so many of the things that occur with Twitch's dashboard, Twitch's information, how much they share with us, is completely left intentionally to keep us uninformed.
Well, yes, I think you know where I stand on transparency. And frankly, when I put my foot down, transparency is the one thing that I fought for more than ever, right? At Twitch. And I think that this has been a big problem over the last few years. I feel, you know, frankly, excuse me.
All
Frankly, I
good.
feel like Twitch is a little scared of their creators right now.
Hmm.
Is scared of the community, and like that pulls back on the want to be transparent.
Sure.
Which then guess what that does? It makes the creators and the communities more upset,
Yep.
and it just becomes an endless cycle of
Yep.
like, well, we're going to disengage more, less transparency, because when we are transparent, looks what happens. But the problem is that like when you dig the hole of not having transparency, you're just going to keep digging
Yep.
further and further and further, and that's to me a lot of where a lot of the troubles arise. And like, let's be honest, that with scale and transparency is not an easy thing. You're talking about how many different countries people use Twitch from. Like there's all sorts of problems, and this
Yeah.
isn't just like Twitch doesn't care or they don't want it. I think there's all sorts of other problems that make that really hard. But you're absolutely right, Zach, is that I just, transparency was one of the superpowers of Twitch early
Hmm.
on. And there
Definitely.
was a point in time, I think this happened in like 2016, 2017, where transparency really started to take a back seat.
Yep.
And then I think, right, new leadership came in and some new ways of doing things, and transparency was just sort of like lost in the history book. So there's so many people at Twitch that don't realize that a part of Twitch's success was because of that transparency with the
Yep.
community, but aren't willing to use that as a strategy moving forward, when that's probably one of the things that could fix a lot of the problems that
Yeah.
exist at Twitch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually funny you say that. I think about your stint in the Let's Chat stream and how that kind of seemed like your the way that the community was pretty aggressive with you. Uh, I feel like you were trying to remedy the rights of several years of silence, and
For sure.
naturally there was going to be a lot of anger in reestablishing that trust. And that's something that I have said here a few times, in that by not communicating, you're creating a communication debt that needs to be paid off before the community
Yep.
actually trusts you again. And so when you first start communicating, you literally are in a corner. You are literally going to be attacked from all angles, from all sides of people going, because there's no reason to trust you at that point. There's no reason to believe what you're saying is actually with good intent or positive reason.
You're right.
And the trust of it is very, very low. But over time, slowly you gradually rebuild that trust, you rebuild that communication, you rebuild that connection that actually makes it a viable communication tool. And it felt like that, and again, you took it, you seem to take it very, very personally. You took it on you wear your heart on your sleeve, and I understand that. And from my perspective, it looked like at that point that was like the last effort that we were going to get from Twitch. Again, I don't know what happened with your internal discussions on that one, but it felt like at that point, when that seemed to get so much negative attention around it, and LSF clips and Dexerto articles and such, that it was like, okay, that might be the nail in the coffin of us getting regular communication from Twitch.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely my kind of final hurrah,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was I think, a drastic measure to try to at least attack it. And certainly I laid down on the railroad tracks for
Sure.
sure. And I was willing to do that because like, even in my final sort of days, months, or whatever, like until the last minute in which I was no longer a Twitch employee, like even now, like I care about Twitch a lot. I care about the community. I care about the people.
Yep.
I want people to continue to be successful. Now I kind of feel like the parent who is punishing their kids, and it's like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. But the fact of the matter is that I got to a point where I personally felt like there were too many big rocks being put in the way to effectively make community communication work, right? And the fact of the matter is that in order for that to work, there has to be a larger organizational buy-in.
Yep.
And I believe that there is not a larger organizational buy-in at Twitch when it comes to community.
Right.
I'm sure that I pissed a lot of people off at Twitch because in my final days, what I was really, really, really trying to drive home was that this fucking company has zero empathy for creators.
Yeah.
Like, this company doesn't truly understand what creators deal with on a day-to-day basis, how these things make them feel. And that lack of understanding to me was just like more and more apparent on a daily basis. And I don't know where that was lost. I know that community is a hard sell overall, but the thing that just constantly grated me so hard was that, like, it's not like I joined Twitch in 2016. It was like, hey, all, I think community is a good strategy. It's like, we've got fucking 7 years of community building with Twitch that led to a $1 billion acquisition by Amazon. Yes, technology was a big part of that, but the other part of that was fostering the community.
Yeah.
And this, we could go into a whole another narrative, which is like, I think when a lot of people came in that didn't have that same level of connection with Twitch, that didn't, or that took community for granted, that fostered an environment where you know, like, the caring about the community was de-emphasized.
Yeah. There's whenever I find like new people have been hired at Twitch, I'm always happy to find out whether or not they've streamed. It's the one thing that I know whether or not this person's probably going to be a good staff. Again, not to say that people who have not streamed are not good staff. I'm sure they do a great job. But in terms of understanding what streaming is, if they have streamed themselves, it definitely sets them apart. In my mind, in terms of what the intent or how they're going to make Twitch better. Because, you know, I feel like it's a completely different thing if you've never streamed before to understand exactly what this community is and be part of it and be in chats and see big moments and than it is to just kind of develop features and buttons to flip.
Right. And you know what's so amazing? First off, two things. Your chat is 100% right. There are so many people that are as passionate and care about creators and community as you and I and everyone in this chat. And a lot of times they don't get the same level of credit. Sometimes they are the punching bag to the community because that's what the community knows. And so just, it's always good to stop for a moment and say, hey, to all those people that are fighting the good fight, like, thank you for that. That I empathize with these people so much because, Zach, I was lucky. I worked at Twitch for 10 years. I carried a tenure that allowed me to go into a meeting and get a little huffy about the community, right? Get a little huffy and be able to say, God damn it, I don't think the community's being represented as much. And a part of that, like, I'm going to be totally honest here, a part of that was my tenure. A part of that is white privilege, right? But like, I was always trying to do it in service of the community. I think that like that tenure, that confidence in being able to go, like, I can go tell Emmett this because I've worked with Emmett in like a more intimate way. Right. I don't know that those people have the same pathway to solve problems.
Right.
And I had a clear pathway and still couldn't solve some of those problems, or still had problem with people understanding. And, you know, I think it turns into almost a debate over, like, do you need to understand Twitch in order to work there? Maybe in some cases, no. But when you see problems arise that, you know, and I'll give it, I know TwitchDoBetter was brought up, you know, and look, TwitchDoBetter was like an amazing showcase of the community being able to come together and, you know, like, make change. Here's the part about TwitchDoBetter from an internal perspective that I just was livid about. When Wreck-It Raven sent out those initial tweets, why was there not a conversation that day?
Right.
You know, why did it take 2 weeks in order for a conversation to happen? Like, to me, I'm just like, well, I can't forgive people for that, because that to me is absolutely thinking about the bottom line, image, all of these things, and was not thinking about the people behind it all. And like that's to me the most crushing blow in all of this is
Yeah.
that like it was a clear indication that, you know, if anyone like had a true connection with this community, the first thing they would say is like, yeah, forget about the red tape.
Yeah.
Let's sit down
Yep.
and let's have a conversation,
Yep.
because that is going to be a way that we're connecting on a human level. It will probably help alleviate some of the like the boulder that's racing down the hill, because more and more is happening. And you know, I just, yeah, I struggle with that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. No, I again, I think it comes back to that whole communication debt that currently exists, or that has existed for a while, in that there is a fear in saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. And so even just reaching out to an individual who's tweeted stuff that they're experiencing hate raids and doxing and all the horrible things that Raven had to go through, there's a concern that, oh well, will we fuck this up? Will we get this wrong? Will this be worse than it? Will it blow over? Will this be a kind of thing like a lot of things that happen on social media is, will in 2 weeks time people just move on from this? It's
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good strategy to just kind of allow a community of communities to flounder. But we talked about Twitch learning to swim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing of like when I think about how Twitch communicates and why they don't communicate. And as you said, there are people in Twitch that do care, and I talk to them quite often. I have conversations with people who do care, who do stream, who do spend time in chats, who do know. A lot of the developer people are really great. They're really good people, that they're building a good like back end stuff. Like they care about it, and like that's their purview of their job. But they spend time in chats. They're interactive. But then there's often times as those people don't end up ascending to a point like yourself where they can't actually speak out. They can't actually kind of be a vocal point of hey, but the community uses it this way, or they do it this way, or this is what I see most of the time here or there. And I don't know. I'm before you left, I said it on stream. The minute that DjWheat leaves is that's gonna be a bad time for us all, because I think that's our the last person at Twitch who's at least has the time. You've had the time spent there to be able to speak up and say things, and I know that your intent has always been to be helpful. But I don't know who's next up. I don't know who's next on deck to be that voice.
I mean, I know what they're up against, right? So I don't envy for that, them for that, because there's no doubt about it. Like I've been pretty vocal about it, but like, you know, Twitch was the greatest thing and the worst thing for my mental wellness over the last 10 years, right? And it's pretty wild to say something like that, because it's so polar. How could it be great and the worst at the same time? And that was a lot on me, because like I cared so much that I probably put myself in more positions that could be hurtful. But you know, I don't know who is going to take up that role. And then the other problem that I see is like, are the other people above them going to allow them to take on that role? Right. I don't know. It unfortunately has to be more than just a face to the brand. That's important, because I think community definitely rallies around that, and it helps with that, pay off some of the community or communication debt that you are talking to. But it's got to be more than that, right? Like they've got to be given a lane. And so, believe it or not, post Twitch, I've been doing a lot of consulting on community, and let me tell you why. Like I have companies that you wouldn't believe reaching out to me saying, "Hey, we want to talk to you about community." And one of my first questions is like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because we clearly see how special the Twitch community is." And I am like, damn, dude, like, damn, my mind's being blown right now that another company that is not even in the same industry as Twitch can look at Twitch and identify that, wow, there is something special here. But then there are people within Twitch that cannot even see what is fucking special about this. And community is something that I think is about to blow up and really become a key to connecting with like future generations and ultimately the success of a lot of brands, products, things that we use, right? I mean, if you're all of the people that are listening and tuning in, like they get that, right? I mean, I'm not a big Web3 NFT person, but I like study community because every single one of those things is grounded in quote unquote a strong community, right? But the fact that other companies look on the outside in and see like, wow, Twitch did this amazing thing with its users and right, like there's a weird connect, but that doesn't exist internally. Like that's the part. How do you fix that, right? Like that is a top-down leadership problem.
Yeah, you almost can you when you're consulting these companies, can you tell them to call up Twitch, the advertising people, and whoever at Twitch? It's like, how did you get your community so great, and like get them to actually hear it from the people, from the external brands that are kind of interested in learning how to build a community, because then maybe they'll recognize, oh, maybe we do have something special here. Maybe we do have something that we should lean into.
Here's the problem, Zach. I'll tell you one of the big, I made a big mistake in like 2017.
Okay.
And I'll just say there was a new leader that came in.
Okay.
And this new leader was from another Silicon Valley company. And in my initial meeting, right, because like new leaders would come in and quite often they would say, hey, meet with this DjWheat guy. Like he's been around forever. He knows he kind of knows, has a connective tissue. So anyway, in this meeting, well, I thought we had a really great meeting, but it wasn't until like a year later that I realized something that I said in that meeting was probably interpreted very poorly, and maybe things would have been better if I wouldn't have said it. And basically what I said was, you know, I love to hear you're from X company. What I would really love to do is offer myself up as a resource because Twitch is a special place. And the strategies and the ideas and the ways of thinking that you would deploy at your previous company are not necessarily the same. And so there's you know, I was basically telling them, listen, you've come into this space. This space is special.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I think they actually took it almost as a, well, fuck you challenge, right? Like I will do, and I'm not saying that's what happened, but when I look back on that conversation, I was like, maybe there was a better way for me to, you know, to convey that and communicate that. But that, I mean, do we all agree, regardless of what's happening, like Twitch is a really fucking unique space that exists and that has grown over the last 10 years. And if I were to say, is it more unique than a Twitter or a Facebook? Would you say, yes, it is?
Yes. Yep. 100%.
So great. I love that everyone, right? But imagine that you're not in this space and that you don't have that preconceived idea because you've experienced it. And someone then is telling you like, you know, this place is special. Like make an effort to understand it. That maybe came off as condescending in a way.
Yeah.
And let's just say that I butted head with this person a lot.
I have. Not that I want to go into that right now. I have some thoughts and some stories, but maybe I'll talk to you offline about that.
Sure.
It's Twitch's community is I, I've said this many times in that Twitch is unlike anywhere else on the internet in that everything is live first and foremost, and so
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of different factors that live actually doesn't exist anywhere else online, and that's probably one of the big things that makes it mostly unique is that the interactions are live, the content consumption is live, the person on the stream themselves is live, which means there's no edits, there's no cuts, there's no opportunity to be like, okay, I didn't like that one, let's do that again. And so unlike YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, like there's no opportunity to go back and really portray the grass is greener, perfect picture, perfect video, perfect editing to make your content consumable.
Right.
It really relies on the individual. And then it also relies, there's a symbiotic relationship, which sometimes can go into dangerous territory, but it's symbiotic with the community, the people who are watching and interacting and engaging and providing the other element of what makes it special. And so you can't address what is unique with what works everywhere else. You can't address live streaming with ads that work on Twitter or ads that work on Instagram or ads that work on YouTube because it's not the same. And so I don't understand the idea of, and you said it before, trying to put a square peg into a circular hole. I don't understand why they're trying to put a massive peg into the tiniest hole. Like, it's impossible. You're never going to get it right. And so instead, all they're going to end up doing, and the best thing that they had, as you said, was the communication with the community, building that relationship. Shows like Twitch Weekly that actually had this communication with the community to understand that, hey, this is a give and take. This is a give and take. We need you to run more ads, and in doing so, we're going to do this. And you have to have that community base because that's how Twitch functions. It's a community of communities is what they say, but they don't act that way.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you nail I think a lot of that sentiment. And I think the one thing I would add to that, and doesn't paint the prettiest picture, but everyone's heard this concept of like too big to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right? How many times have you seen like, oh, this is going to be the final nail in the coffin for YouTube? They're probably too big to fail.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's almost shitty that Twitch is like too big to fail. I hate to say this because it's going to come off as like crass, but it's almost bad that Twitch is too big to fail in some regards, even though no one is too big to fail. Like, it's totally possible. But the point being is that because it makes it easier to not have to commit to the community and the creators, right? I
don't even know if that's too big to fail as much as it's just there's not other options that forces them to actually consider being different. Like, there is no they're the only player currently, that may change in the future, that offers the same level of that kind of community leftover from the past.
Right.
But as time goes on, that check is running out.
Yeah.
So too big to fail is perhaps, and I said it earlier, I drew it earlier, if the live streaming space triples in size and Twitch loses market share, but they gain more viewers, I think again, I don't know the business decisions, but I think they'd probably be okay with that.
That's the thing that concerns me, right? Is that, maybe it's way past the point of no return, right? And maybe the community efforts that continue to exist are, here's a TwitchCon, here's the ambassador program, social media, and that's it, right? And many companies have been successful with just that. But I really believe that, going back to the empathy part, if more employees were given the resources and the access to creators, in the same way that we had access to them in the early days of Twitch, I just imagine, right. I'll give you a great example.
Okay.
I'm, like, not walking on eggshells, but I'll speak
Okay.
in generality. So,
Sure.
I actually did work with some really awesome people on trying to put together like an empathy pilot, right?
Okay.
Just an idea that's like, figure out more ways to put creators in front of employees so they could better understand, right? Like what these individuals go through, and right. We did it with a small group, and the outcome was this was really beneficial. And one of the things that was, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but was basically like, I've read the same comments that these creators expressed in a document, but everything changes for me when I hear those same things come out of a human's mouth. And I'm like, fucking successful. Boom. We did it, right? Because so much of the corporate environment is like, here, read this paper, read this 6-pager, read this thing, read this
Yeah.
document. Right. But the fact of the matter is like, is that really going to help you understand? No. You know what's great is when you have a 250 average CCU creator that can really like talk about their experience, can hear how important community is to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can hear about the struggles of having to go live. And suddenly when you're hearing it from another human being,
Yeah.
and you are seeing that emotion, and you are, like, it does change everything.
Sure.
It almost feels like a complaint when it's in digital text in a document. And so, like, that aspect is a hard thing to accomplish when you're big and you've grown. And clearly one of the things where it's like, if I could go back in a time machine and do it all over again, I'd try to take back this knowledge that, like, listen, we need to make sure that as we are onboarding people, that we are giving them the proper experience and the proper resources to be able to truly understand the human connection
Yep.
of Twitch
Yep.
and why that is so important. Because yeah, it's a tech platform. It lives in these digital virtual spaces, but it came at a time in which, like, the status quo was shifting. I'm going into sort of philosophical
Yeah. No.
areas
Of
right now,
course.
but watching my kid grow up. He's 16 now. Has been like one of the most incredible things for me as it relates to community and working at Twitch, because I have gotten this really awesome insight to how a new generation is favoring their digital spaces as much as their physical spaces. And I think if you take a step back from Twitch, it's very representative of probably why we are all here in one shape, way, shape, or form. We
Yep.
might go to our jobs, we hang out with friends in real life. Fact of the matter is, it's like, our digital spaces they clearly outweigh our physical spaces right now, right? Yep. I just, by the sheer access that I have by sitting down at my computer or pulling out my phone, I can access the hundreds of digital spaces that I want to be a part of. So, again, a lot of this comes back to this idea that Twitch came at a time that was sort of the idea of digital spaces was being redefined, and the importance of these digital spaces, especially for the upcoming generations, right, needs some attention.
Yep.
But if people don't understand that, if they have to experience, it may happen, Zach. It might take longer for them to kind of make that realization, but that's where we're at. And frankly, I think you've got a lot of people that truly understand that, and then you've got a lot of people that have no fucking idea, right? They don't get why people use Twitch. I mean, the number of times I heard employees say, like, I don't understand why people watch other people play video games, and I'm like, I don't understand why you work here. I don't, if you're not even willing to make that effort, what,
Yeah. Again, it's a thing of you don't expect everyone to fully be like Like I don't expect somebody who's on Facebook to spend all their time in Facebook mom groups and Facebook Marketplace, but you do expect them to understand, hey, this is where I share photos with my family and my friends, and I interact and I see them and I see their birthday and I wish them a happy birthday. If you can't go to that basic step on what Twitch is, which is community, going into a chat, understanding why you're watching a stream, and again, if you're not into watching video games, completely understandable. There's tons of other content that you can watch. You can watch somebody cook. You can watch somebody talk about news. You can watch somebody talk about politics. You can hear people debate things. You can there's so much variety of content that if you don't understand why people watch people play video games, perhaps you can find something else on why people watch people do things on Twitch. And so it really does seem like a bad cop out to be like, oh, I don't get that, but I just do my job of trying to develop this thing or trying to create that or trying to it doesn't. You have to have, rather than just understanding, oh, okay, I understand this program, I understand Slack, I understand the HR program that we use, but maybe also take a little bit of time, a little bit of interest into understanding who you, and maybe this isn't actually a philosophy, but who you actually work for in terms of who you're servicing as the end user, which is, I believe, viewers and creators. And I don't know if it's in exactly that order. I think it was creators at one point. Maybe it's flipped. But now it doesn't even feel like maybe that's top 3. Maybe there's somebody else there that fits in. I don't know.
Even that was a challenge in a lot of ways, right? Like what is the user pyramid of Twitch, right? Well, probably at a basic level, people are like, yeah, there's a creator and then they have a community. And there you go. Like, it's like, but we look at it and it's like, well, their community consists of moderators and people that help run the stream and subscribers and, people that are there to engage and support, maybe some people you play games with. So it definitely goes a lot, a lot deeper than just, this is someone turning on their camera and doing something there. And then again, I think that comes down to, I could understand how someone doesn't get the evolution of digital spaces if they are not participating in those digital spaces. And let me just say, there were quite a few employees that would pretty consistently blow me away. Like, they came in, maybe not an active Twitch user, but you'd see them in Twitch channels like participating and they would talk about hey, I found this person that plays this type of music and I love it. It's great. And seeing that was always really special because I'm like, oh yeah, God, if everyone could have that oh shit moment, this would be, there would never be problems. We'd all figure it out because everyone would have their sort of different entrance or understanding of how that is relatable or how it could be relatable to someone else.
Yeah, no, some of my favorite moments, or not my favorite moments, but a moment that gives me some level of joy is seeing somebody who works in the music side coming here to hear what I have to say, or somebody who works in development coming here to listen to me talk about a feature that's launched. And it's like, okay, look, they're at least coming to listen and they're engaging in chat and they're not fearful of having a badge and a staff badge. They're actually kind of contributing. And then I have a tendency to go take a look at who they are afterwards because I'm a curious person. I need to know. And then you find out that they don't actually follow any channels. They don't actually have any other people that they regularly watch. And it's like, okay, cool. So they came and check it out. At least that's them engaging a little bit in the community. I kind of like to see that. So it's kind of the same idea as you finding people that surprised you and got engaged in content as well.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, not encouraging any hunts here, but if you there's a lot of individuals at Twitch where you could just look at their Twitter and clearly see that they do not relate to the spaces that exist on Twitch. That's fine, right? Again,
are they focused more on horses and Candyland?
I mean, it could be anything, but I think earlier we talked about who are some of the right? Who are some of the people internally at Twitch that, right, like, that they're fighting for the community.
Yeah.
You go to their social and it's
Yeah.
like, it's pretty clear they are embedded in the Twitch community in one way, shape, or form, right? And then there's many others you could look at. Again, it's not a requirement to like work for a company and be an evangelist for them, but I can look at it and be like, well, it's no wonder that I have a hard time talking to them about community, because they clearly don't experience it in the same way that I do, right? And I think that's always been one of the internal challenges at Twitch. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Twitch could be a better place if community had more seats at the table.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's been times where there's been some moments where it's like, yes, we need a community group that oversees. We need them to be a part of, but never. It's like so easy to say, but it's like harder to commit to that.
Yeah.
And I have many examples throughout my own career where I was just like, well, didn't listen to community, didn't let community have a seat at the table, depreciated the product a year later, like shocked Pikachu face again, and if I could just make one change in Twitch, if I could just wish, if I was CEO for a day and my changes stayed after I was no longer CEO, it'd be like, boom, community has a place at the table.
Yeah. I in some ways, that's sort of what I was hoping the Twitch Safety Council was kind of the introduction to, of doing it under the guise of safety, but then seeing the success of that or the failures or the learning lessons from that, and perhaps then taking the next step and going, okay, the Safety Council is one of the things that has a seat at the table, and here is our next thing, which is going to be a community a group that we regularly look to as representatives of the community that we can kind of have these discussions with, and they can then go and take that information back to the community, so it's not directly coming from Twitch but still has the connections with Twitch. But it didn't happen.
I mean, sometimes it did happen.
Okay.
I mean, you can imagine that there were absolutely some oh shit moments where it's like, fuck, we better ask DjWheat, or we better ask this community person, or we better ask this person who understands this community, like their thoughts on how we should do that. I'm not going to, that will be for the book one day, Zach. Like there's a lot of examples, but those times often were more hurtful than helpful, because it's like, wait a second. So you want my opinion when X happens, but when I write this 7-page document on why I'm really concerned that this product that's going to get released is going to have a super negative effect on the community, that's not listened to. Right. Why? Right. And again, I don't blame anyone for that. I blame Twitch as an organization for not wanting to keep community at the table, or at least figure out a structure and an organization in which that makes sense. Because a community voice shouldn't be there to derail; it should be there to inform. Right. But I do think that on some level, the community wants to be represented internally at Twitch, and Twitch wants to be represented externally to the community, and I just think that was something that never really happened at Twitch. I don't know if there was connective tissue between every department,
right?
And decisions that were made. Like a lot of times, decisions would get made, and then it was too late. So when the red flags came up regarding community, it was like, okay, I guess let's go to damage control mode, because this is going to happen. It's like, well, what if we would have had the conversation early on? Like, wouldn't that have been worth the hour to sit down and like have that talk?
Yeah, no, that's something that happens way too often, where the launch, the two things not connected to one another, not talking to each other. I mean, I think there's a recent example of that in terms of the front page placement for Black History Month and Women's History Month, in that the Women's History Month email to the women involved stated that, oh, due to technical restraints, we can't actually do the thing that we were planning to do, so we can't actually show as many people as we wanted to, so we have to scale it back. Like, but again, that's just a recent example, perhaps a smaller example overall. But yeah, no, it does often feel like a whole bunch of different parts are moving, but maybe not necessarily moving with the direction of, again, with creators in mind, with community in mind, and then often not even working with each other.
Zach, the funniest example of this to me is, do you remember the Communities product? Does anyone even remember the Communities product? Right? This was around, I think, probably 2016, 2017.
Okay.
And it was kind of before tags.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes. Okay. Yep.
It was right. It was
Yep.
this idea that, right, you could create communities and then you could then be a part of communities. And this was one of those examples of like a lot of key players at Twitch in the community didn't find out about this until much later. Let me tell you, dude. Okay, 2007. So
17, yeah.
right, like, in fact, it's so funny because one of the examples. So sorry, let me rewind. A group of individuals at Twitch got together and said, "Hey, we all agree that this has some like really big red flags for us, right? It kind of makes sense on paper, but when we think about this being out in the wild, here are the here's what we think communities are going to do and how they're going to use this, and then why we think it's not going to be effective." So kind of got together, organized like 6 really solid concrete points. Even in those points, gave an example like Lyric is probably just going to create a cats community. And then like, because he is right, represents one of the largest streamers on Twitch, that's just always going to be number one, right? So there's going to be this weird sort of popularity issue, right? Along with 5 other things that we felt like we weren't necessarily giving an alternative to the product, but we were pointing out the issues that we felt the community would experience when using this, what they might not like about it, why it wasn't going to help smaller creators, why it would benefit larger creators, etc. All right. Now,
Okay.
I don't know if you can find the article that says we're getting rid of communities, but I remember during a company all hands, which is like where everyone gets together, and they announced that communities was getting depreciated. And you know what they did? They gave a PowerPoint presentation that outlined the 6 points that we presented a year prior for why this was going to fail. And I remember just shaking my head going, if you know, if they would have just read this document, had a conversation, right, we could have avoided all of this. We might have been able to build the better product. Right. But the fact of the matter is that conversation didn't happen. Community didn't have a seat at the table. All that work was done. It didn't work out. And then a year and a half later, they shut it down for all the reasons that we identified early on. And like, I don't know if there's a better example, because that literally was a giant waste of everyone's fucking time across the board.
I was one of the staff that told them before lunch how fucking bad it was. It still pisses me off.
Shannon like signed that document along with many, like it was not like I was so I remember this document, right? But I remember being so like, wow, this is so well written out and so well put together by the individuals that kind of had a concern that I think we might actually be able to make a difference here. And then no, it didn't. And you know, I mean, you've got to experiment as a company.
Sure,
you know, you've got it, right? Like there's all these things. I don't blame the people that did it. I think they were tasked with something, didn't really work out. What this really showcases to me is, again, when community doesn't have a seat at the table, or when community does have a seat at the table, you can have much better outcomes
Yeah.
that and you can have more insight to how the community may react
Yep.
or their sentiment towards a product or something like that, right? And many times, unfortunately, if the sentiment was, hey, the community's going to hate that, it was like, sweep that part under the rug. Let's go. And then like, why did the community hate that? It's like, God damn it. What do you mean? Like everyone is, people are telling you that.
Versus. Wow, yeah. So I'm just looking up something that Stale has mentioned. Stale, who used to be a developer at Twitch. When Twitch launched their Versus by Twitch, it's basically dead now. I don't even know if it's still active. Let's see. Nope, takes you back to the front page. That was launched in September 9th, 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Future of esports on Twitch.
And I would argue that probably the flip side happens too, where I guarantee you that there are internal engineers and developers and designers that have great ideas that, right, don't or aren't able to push through those things too,
definitely.
right? I mean, I saw it all the time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite hiring stories at Twitch was, I don't know if Nils is still there anymore.
Okay.
But the guy, right, I'll paint a picture. At one point, you would watch a Twitch VOD and there was no chat replay, right? Someone made something called like chat replay. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was this super Twitch fan. Name is Nils. He wrote this, and we caught wind that he had applied for Twitch.
Okay.
And we were like, oh, sick, man. Like, here's someone who clearly identified like a problem or an area where Twitch could be improved. And they wrote this thing and look at the adoption. Everyone's using this. And at the time I was like talking to Gunrun. Okay. And Gunrun's like, yeah, man, they didn't hire Nils. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean they didn't hire this guy? And so we went back to HR. Now, much smaller company, much different times, but we were like, this guy is like literally exactly the type of person that we want to hire. Look at what they made. Look at their understanding of what needs Twitch might have, what areas that we're lacking in. And they went out and they built a super robust system to be able to do that. Eventually, he got hired. That was built. That's why you've got chat replay today. But again, it was like even at the hiring level, there's no community seat at the table, right? Well, if they were just judging people based off of their engineering experience, but not factoring into like, what does this person know? Have they ever developed tools for that? It's like, Twitch hired like me because I was a guy in the industry. I brought a lot of knowledge and connections and whatnot. So why wouldn't you double down on, these incredible developers that are making third-party tools that are like used more than some of the tools that are on Twitch, Anyway.
And sometimes when you have those people that you've hired and then they leave, I don't know the circumstances of how Commander Root left or exited Twitch, but sometimes I look at his site and some of the things that he develops in days, it seems, I go, well, that's a feature that I want on Twitch. That's such a good feature that everybody's going to use. Here's a very simple one. There's no easy way for me to go look into my followers and remove the people, the bots that follow me. There's no way to do that. Commander Root has a tool that does it. Now, granted, it's a little bit of a scary tool and can be used incorrectly, but that's a small community feature that is a quality of life thing that people actively already use.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do want to be careful here because I just saw this meme the other day that was like, yeah, just add multiplayer, like that's easy. And then underneath it, it showed like the 20,000
Yeah.
things that would need to be added. So I give respect and appreciation for when you're working in a large system like that and pushing code updates, etc. Right, changing this small thing here does have a butterfly effect on all these other things. And
Right.
so we all can acknowledge that, yeah, in our brains, everything's fucking easy, but
Yep.
there is,
Of
however,
course.
um, there's still a limitation there to me, right? Because I've always kind of been a person that's like, don't tell me no, tell me how we can make something happen, right? And maybe that's a part that has been, um, uh, I see Fluffkins and I'm 1,000% agree.
I think that's the problem
With
working
what
at
was
Twitch.
just
Every time
said.
I see something we launched that sucks, I see something that we could have launched using that time. That's the pain. It's not a lack of ideas, it's a lack of vision for which ideas are better.
And man, wouldn't it be amazing if there was like, the community team is not the solution to everything, but the
Sure.
community team could offer insight that would be like, hey, it sounds like based off of what the community team thinks that this would be a really big win for the community, whether you're at the top level or the bottom level or starting out or affiliates. And maybe, maybe like that was the underemphasized aspects of it because Levikins is absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some things during Twitch hack weeks where I've just been like, holy shit, that's amazing. When are we going to get it? And then it never happens,
Yeah.
and I don't know how those decisions are made necessarily. But again, I think that,
Yeah. So
missed opportunities.
yeah, well, okay. So kind of to loop this back to where this conversation all kind of started.
Yeah.
Uh I'm assuming you've read this article.
I've read the article. Yes.
Sure. And for anybody who is just coming in, and sure, but thank you so much for the raid. An article came out today by Cecilia D'Anastasio talking about how Amazon's Twitch is looking at changing creator pay with focus on profit, and details some of the ideas here of changing the 70% to 50% on certain streamers that do have premium contracts, and possibly people who have the current split for partners is 60-40 on tier 2 and 70-30 on tier 3. I have heard all things are potentially on the table of monetization structure. And so again, this article just kind of details or makes clear evidently 100% discussion point of partners with those premium contracts. But I've heard that there's some level of discussion that nothing is off the table. How do you, is this something that you felt like was coming for a while? Do you feel like this is going to happen? Do you think again, because it's a community thing that they're not thinking about necessarily? Is this just another one of those decisions in a long line of thing, or does the blowback of the community that actually speaks up against this maybe make them rethink?
I mean, I don't know if there is a rethink opportunity here. It has happened before, but I don't think. I mean, it has happened, but I think because there is such a negative reaction in some ways. I'm going to speak very generally here,
sure, of course.
But many years ago, when I think more people started saying, "Hey, we should probably be thinking about how to add more value to partnerships," right? To what does being a partner mean? And what are some of the big things that partners deal with or that creators deal with, right? And I think anytime you're starting off with a project like that, you're like, let's go pie in the sky, right? Like
Okay.
imagination land. No idea is bad, right? Put it out on the table. Well, I think it was mentioned in the article actually at the very end is that this started from a place of a team that I think really wanted to help solve some of the big issues that creators and partners were facing. So, somewhere in the bottom of the article, it mentions the idea of go down. I think it's even lower than this.
I think that's the bottom of the article.
Okay. Yeah. So Twitch employees begin tossing around the idea of offering healthcare benefits, or the ability. No, you found it. You highlighted it, or the ability to pause subscriptions during a vacation so they wouldn't worry about losing patrons. Right. So, that's where this started several years ago. That was the imagination land. That was the like, oh my God, what an amazing effect that would have on things. You know, as you start to explore those things, you're probably asking questions like, how do you fund something like this? How are you doing this? How do we do this? How do we offer this additional value?
Right.
And then, unfortunately, I think the discussion comes back down to like, well, what do the numbers look like?
Right.
And so I imagine that this has gone through so many iterations that the original intention, which was like, let's solve problems for creators and let's actually somehow figure out how to turn this into a career or solve the issue of like giving someone a vacation or doing these things, and has had so many iterations that it now sits in a, okay, how are we going to shift monetization models to benefit Twitch? Right. And where the project started with this super like focused perspective on adding more value to being a Twitch creator.
Right.
In the same way that creators think about, how do I add more value to someone subscribing to my channel, right? It was the exact same practice. Well, I'm going to open up Discord and I'm going to do these things, and you know, and it's a hard road, but you traveling and it can, right? It can it can definitely make big changes. So I'm glad that was mentioned in the article, so that could be discussed, because that's what I think happened, is that, right, like it got too far away from what it was initially set out to do, which was like, how are we changing the game for the creators that effectively built this platform in the first place.
Yeah, so it went kind of more from a value add kind of thing in terms of assisting creators to, and again, in the United States, obviously, there's no healthcare benefits for the United States. Everybody will understand that one, but outside of there, a lot of people probably don't understand that. But perhaps there is a thing there of, hey, you're making us this much money that at this point, yeah, maybe we can throw in some additional perks there. Maybe we can do this, and rather than the alternative of maybe going outside of that for people in Canada who already have healthcare benefits, where they can get, okay, well, instead of getting healthcare benefits or whatever, maybe you can have a higher sub split or something like that.
I've seen this mentioned a couple times,
sure,
and it's a lot, but I've seen this idea of, you know, selling or unloading Twitch.
I don't think that's
I don't know that I agree on any level with someone thinking that there is some sort of strategy to get sold off. So understanding one of the reasons why Amazon purchased Twitch is because Twitch's technology is right. It is its own anomaly in the grand scheme of things. Like we talk about Twitch is special because of its community.
Yep.
And I see you've already got it up, right? Definitely Amazon had a desire to take the infrastructure that was Twitch and turn it into a service, which they have done, Amazon IVS, in a very similar fashion to AWS. So what happens, right? Technically, you could say Twitch is a customer of IVS. I'm not sure how that whole sort of relationship works exactly, but right, I could go start my own streaming service using Amazon IVS and build that thing, but I'm going to be paying like cost plus. Well, if Amazon sold Twitch and Twitch doesn't own its infrastructure anymore, Twitch like no one can operate Twitch at the cost that it would cost to use IVS as a cost. Like, so I understand where people's brains go there, but I don't think that works out, because I think if that happens, it's it's dead in the water.
Yeah.
I don't.
I was saying that it's my understanding, and I might be wrong, and you might not know, but it's my understanding that IVS is run by Twitch and people who work for Twitch, although technically they're both Amazon and Twitch, but Twitch doesn't actually get the revenue from IVS. That's factored into Amazon's side of their revenue sales. And so despite the fact that Twitch is basically the provider of IVS and the people who support it and all that, they don't get the benefits of the money that comes in from that. Amazon does. And again, that's maybe that's just my understanding. It might be wrong. It might be incorrect. It might be more complicated than that. But that is what I have heard. And so
it is more complicated,
Yeah.
but that's what makes it so hard to understand. I mean,
Right.
you can make the same comparison to Prime.
Right.
How exactly does that work? Like Amazon gets the money for Prime,
Right.
but there's no doubt that like Prime subs, how does that work in? How's Amazon Music working? How's Prime Video working? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that definitely one of the keys to the castle that I never quite could get or understand. So yeah, I think, to this point, as IVS adds customers, because Twitch is a customer of IVS, if IVS expands, that's good for Twitch, right? But if Twitch was its own entity, it doesn't own IVS. It is a customer of IVS, right? At that point. And that I don't see a world where that works.
It's a very confusing relationship in that regard. Yeah. 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 So yeah, to go back to the point of Twitch being sold off, I don't and again, this is just like things that I've heard. I'm pretty sure Twitch is firmly in its place for at least 5 years. I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes in that regard, and that may include leadership. I don't know. But it seems that Twitch is more of a pet to Amazon, in that Amazon will continue to feed it, put food in the bowl, pet it a few times, but ultimately it's just like, yeah, I have to do work, we have to do this. Go play with your toys, go lie down in a bed. And that seems to be how things are kind of approached. And so with that in mind, and again, maybe there is some, well, you have to learn how to fetch, you have to go learn how to do some tricks. Perhaps that's what's leading to, hey, well, we have to make a little bit more money here if we want to have more money continue to grow, because Amazon maybe doesn't want to always foot the bill for things of future growth.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's so many aspects of Twitch, right, that I have no idea about. My specialty was definitely in community,
of course,
and supporting creators, educating, et cetera, et cetera. But it's hard for me to wrap my head around it too, Zach, because again, it goes back to, is Twitch too big to fail? Does Amazon care if they're I mean, I think Amazon cares that any of their subsidiaries are profitable.
Yep.
Right. But is there a jettison, clause, like hit the eject button, we're out of here? I have no, I have no idea about that.
Yeah.
And I also think that there's probably other ways to, if they're going to be a service, I'm surprised they just don't charge me to be able to stream on Twitch.
Well, right? Hey, maybe that's coming. Maybe if you,
I mean, would it mean that like people that have smaller streams, or would they be willing to? But yeah, they probably might not engage at the same level, but I kind of feel like I would. If you want to be a service, if that's what you're calling yourself, like, I guess I would do that if it meant the health of the service.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Don't give them ideas, DJ. I'm sorry. I'm like, what I don't think is trying to get your users to be that through things like the ad incentive program, through things like this. But like, I don't know if that's that might be the right solution for a monetary problems. That's not the right solution for community problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, boy. God. Uh, what do you think that it's the right thing for creators to do is to kind of obviously speak up against this, obviously continue to be vocal on the fact that Twitch should probably listen to its creator class, probably work more with the creator class, speak more to us. Again, over time they're going to have to, if they wanted this to be more properly received, then they would have to actually communicate rather than just making changes. We were talking with Noah before about how they might just put a "do you accept your new contract" button onto the dashboard, and if you don't, you lose partnership, and if you do, you just get accepted into whatever these new changes might be. Is there anything else that creators can do other than just be vocal about it, and get themselves into positions where they're not making all of their money from Twitch? Like, is this from your perspective, is this a lost cause? Is it is there just not enough people who are going to listen, even if we are super loud, even if we're active in the user voice, even if we get do we have a chance? There's always a chance, but
yeah, I mean, you and many others who kind of exist in this journalist / educational space are constantly talking about diversifying revenue. And right, like at the end of the day, that's how you're future proofing what you're doing now, because it is weird, but that Twitch is a giant variable. You know, maybe this wasn't the same case 3 years ago, but you don't know what is going to happen, right? You don't know if subsplit might change, or, you know, the ads or whatever might change. So I always think that that is right, a really solid strategy, and also probably sends a clear picture to Twitch that, like, Twitch is now just a part of the community ecosystem, right?
right.
If I'm thinking about what my community ecosystem is, it's like, okay, it's the Twitch stream when I'm live. It's like the YouTube if people look for VODs, it's Discord, and it's, you know, this other thing that I do, right? And where I think at one point it was like, yeah, Twitch is the sort of basis for the grounding, if you will, for the ecosystem. So there is that. I truly believe that if there was one sort of campaign that would lead to more understanding on both sides, would be creators start asking why we have a flat rate CPM, why don't we have a revenue split, and what kind of CPMs are Twitch earning? Now, do I ever think you're going to get the answer from Twitch? No.
No.
But I think putting the pressure on is an indicator, I would hope is an indicator that creators kind of see that there could be an alternate ads path, that there's right, that an ad incentive program is not necessarily it, right? Like I do feel like a community and a relationship with a brand only works because there's compromise, right? It's not gonna it's not always going to work for both sides, right? As we've seen many times in a lot of the communities that we're in. But I when I sit back, I always, you know, everyone just immediately goes to the ads provide no value. I don't like that, because ads clearly provide value, because look at how much fucking advertising is on the internet. But now the question should be is like, why are they not right now providing creators value? And maybe that would get one step closer to Twitch understanding why creators don't want to run ads. But like, there's a universal truth. Typically creators that are looking to make a business out of this or to make their career out of this, like, earning money is an organizational goal for them.
Sure.
Again, going back to what I know about what I've seen in my own experience as a streamer, as a creator, etc., is that I think right now the revenue splits would not only would benefit creators initially, probably take away from Twitch initially, but if ad inventory and ad density increases from creators because they're like, holy shit, now I'm making money off ads, I'm more willing to run those 2 minutes an hour, then both sides win. And it might not happen overnight, and it might not be something that happens immediately. But to me, I feel like this area hasn't been explored enough, both on the creator side and on Twitch's side.
Mm.
And I know, like, I'm asking people to basically say, hey, trust in like what I've experienced over the last 13 years when it comes to online advertising. And then also, you know, yeah. So I really do think, Zach, that I don't know if the sub split is ever going to truly get resolved, because we know that Twitch is expensive to run, which needs to, like, it makes the most sense. That's where it would happen. I don't know how you necessarily like solve that issue or make it better. I think that if Twitch needs to solve an ad problem and get more ads to be run, then Twitch needs to show the value to creators. But the creators need to know that there is potential value there, because I think right now it's kind of a showstopper.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean that ads scheduler. It's not an ads manager. It's an ads scheduler. I think that's the worst thing that people can do for their channels, because there's zero intent in how you're actually running ads. It just kind of runs them at the intervals that you set. Doesn't matter what's happening on stream. Doesn't matter. And once you set it, you're gonna forget it as a streamer. You're not going to remember, oh, I'm in a very intense game moment right now, I got to pause the ad. Like, you're not going to do those things. And so it doesn't really lend itself to being very thoughtful in how you actually use it. The thing that I thought, and again, going back to the ads incentive program, and you know, maybe there's a better chance of somebody at Twitch and monetization listening right now, is one of the things that I think it was Mike Minton has said, but it might not have been him, or it might have been an interview that I read that said that ads are important to Twitch because they're scalable for Twitch. They have the ability to scale them up, scale them down. They can sell more. They can do it at higher mass. The more they have, then that means that, hey, they can charge more, higher CPMs. Ads, bits and subs are not scalable for Twitch. However, the opposite is true for creators. For me, I can do things to increase the amount of subscribers I have, or increase the amount of bits that I get. And so I feel like there should be an inverse relationship there that actually would benefit both creators and Twitch in saying, hey, if you run 2 minutes of ads per hour, then we're going to increase your sub split to 70%. That means more ads get run. You're going to do it with intent, and you're going to get the benefit of doing things that you actually have control over. And Twitch gets the benefit of more ads being run as well. That seems more like a collaborative way to actually introduce ads into content, where the creator is being considered, and the benefits are there for the creator, and the benefits are there for Twitch because they're considering the creator and how they create content, and they're also getting more ads run.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly comment on the scalable aspect of ads.
Yeah.
You know, I agree and I disagree, because how they're not scalable is that if creators aren't running ads, then inventory is left over, right? So I think that's where you're talking about. Then that's how, there's a symbiotic relationship that exists there. You know, absolutely. But in order for that to be true, Zach, the two things that are clearly not happening, the connection that's not taking place, is that A, creators right now see ads as super disruptive to what they're doing, because they're not earning shit on it. And internally at Twitch, they're struggling with, like, how do we get creators to run more ads? But I don't feel like want to listen to the fact that it's like, you need to understand that the last 6 to 7 years, a narrative has been written that ads are worthless on Twitch. So that's what needs to change. The narrative has to change. And that's only going to happen if the conversations start taking place. If Twitch actually, like, talks about that, if the creators start asking the right questions. Because I do believe there's a world where like you've seen this too. Everyone here has seen this. You're hanging out in a creator's channel. There's always someone who's a big part of the community. Maybe they can't sub. Maybe they don't have that same level of income. And you know what? They are totally fine eating an ad break every once in a while.
Yep.
But you know what? Not when they're like, God, like I LOL, I earned $15 in ads last month. Like what? Great. That I'm gonna opt on the side of like not running ads. But think about the amount. Like I would generally guess that most communities would be okay if there was a transition, if like they knew that those ads truly were, if creators were like, wow, thank you for the subs, thank you for the bits. You know what? Ads have also been huge for me this month. And I don't know exact, but I would be willing to bet that like some of the individuals that were on this sort of experimental ad split versus flat rate CPMs, that they de-emphasized subs because they were able to make so much off of, maybe that's not a good thing either. But so I agree with what you're saying. I think now that like if you pull back a little bit, how do you achieve that? Because clearly there's kind of a disconnect on the creator side as well as a disconnect on the Twitch side.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how I see it. And I mean, there might be creators out there like, fuck you, Margaret, like there's no, like, I will still never run an ad. Look, I get it. I understand, because right now in the status quo, I wouldn't run ads. But if my ad revenue like literally quadrupled with very little effort, I might say like, wow, that does seem like a good, right? We're talking about diversification. Cool. I am going to throw 30 seconds of ads or 60, seconds of ads into a stream because now I know I'm getting more value out of that.
Yeah. 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 Somebody's pointing out at my channel size, if an ad makes one viewer leave, it was more detrimental to my stream than running ads could possibly be worth. And that's also something that, again, there's no information on that on the dashboard. You don't have a bounce rate based upon your ads.
Right.
So that's another thing that would be beneficial. If I know that nobody leaves when I run ads, maybe I'll run more ads. Maybe that's a part of the equation in terms of making it more palatable, more like it just feels like there's just so much that is being left in the, as you said, that is not like this narrative has been created, that it's just all bad. That I don't know how they fix without just dramatic shifts. And so instead we just get the option of, hey, we're just going to change everything on you because we need to have more ads run, which I think is worse. That's worse.
Yeah. And that's why it's a huge chicken and the egg and the egg issue, right? And probably one of the strongest ones that has ever kind of been put in front of Twitch and the creators. It's not, there's no easy solution to this, because you're talking about changing the narrative and the behavior of
a new subscriber,
a community that has done it a certain way for a very long time. And yeah, that makes it increasingly more difficult.
Yeah.
So I don't envy the position that Twitch is in. I think that creators do need to maybe be thinking about, right, are we asking the right questions in this regard? Should we be asking why, what would my ad revenue look like if I ran the same number of ads, but it was on a rev split versus a flat rate? Those types of questions, because I don't think Twitch has any indication that most users even understand that aspect of CPMs or ads or how they work. But
I'm somewhat in that camp, and I'm probably more engaged and invested in this than most. So,
well, I mean, like, there's one simple thing that you can consider. All right, I'm gonna throw out totally not accurate CPM.
Perfect.
But like
Love
in
it.
2012, Twitch makes a flat rate $5 and $3.50. At the same time, subscriptions comes out. Subscriptions actually ends up being huge. Oh my gosh, look at this revenue driver, etc. And during this time, CPMs start going up, right?
Yeah.
Well, what does that look like on Twitch's sheets, right? Their ledgers. Wow, man, we're paying creators, $5 max, and we're keeping 15.
Mm.
That's pretty fucking sick, right? Well, guess what? They basically bought a specific narrative that now is biting them in the ass. Because that
Oh.
narrative is, well, I'm not going to run ads because ads aren't valuable to us. And that's where, going full circle back to the whole idea
Yeah.
of, this should have been evaluated a lot more over the last 8 years even, right? Like, how is this doing? How does ads compare to what they were doing last year? Do we need to make adjustments to the flat rate CPM
Right.
value? Do we need to consider going back to a sub split? And I know, like, I'm making this sound a lot easier than it probably is, because I know recently it was also announced that Amazon took in like the Twitch sales team, right? And that, I don't know
Yep.
how that exactly works there either, but you could see why, from Twitch's perspective, if the ledger is showing this percentage earned off of ads, but if you change to a rev split, that number goes down.
Down for sure.
Do you want to be the person that has
Right.
to explain up the ladder, like, why that is the case, and then say, trust me, if we go this route, after 2 years, this is what we've modeled. We're going to actually be doubling that because
Right.
creators are finally going to be running
Right.
yeah.
Isn't that basically the same math that they've already been thrown out there in terms of local price subs? They take the hit short term by dropping the price in 90 different countries, which hopefully increases the uptick of people wanting to sub. But that's a slow gain, and a lot of creators have absolutely seen that in their revenue from like in Brazil especially. I know a lot of different creators who have seen dramatic drops in their revenue. But the idea being that 2 or 3 years down the road, it starts to pay off because now people are more accustomed, because any kind of monetization is learned behavior.
Yeah, I think that the difference between these two scenarios is that, the similarity is that both of them should have been evaluated well before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Twitch's subs launched in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, this is probably a very long project, but when was that? Was that 2021 that local sub pricing went out?
Yep.
2021.
Yep.
So again, 9 years where this precedent was established that it didn't matter what country you were in, like, we're getting the same value for subs. So to me, that was like a necessary change for future growth in those areas too. And you're absolutely right, grounded with this idea that, right, this may be a hit now, but it will, right, it's going to mean more overall subs over time. The problem is that, right, I think that was, I guess, what am I think, like, that was had to do that, right? That was something that should have happened years ago. Local sub pricing is something that need to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I understand a lot of people don't quite get it, but it is true that there were people in various countries that, by comparison, were spending so much on a sub versus what they spend now. So, like, Twitch took that hit too. Creators are taking that hit too. But imagine if that would have been something that was identified in 2015 when there was a ton of EMEA and APAC growth. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I believe that one of the reasons that kind of came to was because LATAM has had a huge, right, explosion in the world of content creators on YouTube, on Twitch, etc. And I think, like, a lot of those users, they're like, how can these individuals be so popular but not have like the same amount of subscribers as, say, as like someone like Ninja or something? Like, well, like, there you go, is because the cost of a sub was like a week's worth of groceries. And I mean, I think you'd have to be looking at like a year's worth or plus of data, but I'm sure that the expansion and some of the growth in LATAM was a big part of looking at a global restructure of local sub pricing. That's what we need now. We need like
Yep.
a restructure of ads, but I think at this point there's a lot of variables missing. There's also international ad inventory. Like it's a much more complex math problem because the CPM of what you get in the US is probably a lot different than the CPM you're getting in Portugal.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
definitely.
right,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So it's not, it's just, it's not an easy problem to solve for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Marcus, I should probably let you go. I should probably get some lunch or something
Yeah,
here.
I was actually thinking about lunch as well. No, it's been good to chat. I appreciate you letting me come on and having a place just sort of talk about this. I think
Yeah.
it's really healthy to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
I think I want to just always reiterate like these conversations for me are not grounded in any sort of like they're grounded in love for Twitch
Yep.
and the community and
Yep.
creators and the platform.
Yeah.
And
That's
although I might not wear my Twitch hat in the same way that I did before, I've always cared about creators regardless of what platform that they're on.
yeah.
And this is like no different. I want to see the space continue to thrive, and
Hmm.
I might sound like I'm bitter and angry, and in some cases I am, but at the end of the day, it is truly because I care a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I say that too. Sometimes people say, "Why are you being so negative?" And I go, well, "Because I care. It's because I want to see it do better. It's because I want to see this space continue to improve. I want Twitch. I don't want Twitch to be this place that everybody hates. I don't want the Twitch to be this thing that is constantly at odds with what the decisions are being done in the
Yep.
executive room. I want it to be a collaborative thing, the same way that streams are collaborative, the same way that I can have you onto this stream and Noah and like have conversations and be in a position where we're all kind of working together. And so that's why so many people who are passionate about this sometimes come off as negative, is because sometimes you have to call out the negative stuff to make things better. If you're in a relationship and you don't say,
Yep.
that thing kind of bothers me, you're going to build up resentment in that relationship. Like, that's not healthy. That's not a
Dude,
healthy
it
thing.
is so true. It is so true. Yes.
So it's anytime that people criticize you as being negative or having a chip on your shoulder or whatever, please know that I think the majority of people understand it's because you care. So yeah, but yeah,
Appreciate
no,
it.
this was
I really say that I don't ever worry about the audience. I actually worry about Twitch. I'm
Yeah,
like, to be
yeah,
totally honest with you, I
yeah,
worry that Twitch thinks that I'm some disgruntled
yeah,
employee. It's like, no, I'm exactly like I was 8 months ago when I was there. I just, there's a little bit more I could talk about. There's a little bit more opinion that could come out, and but there's so many people over there that I absolutely love, adore. I want
yeah.
what's best for them, but at the end of the day, I think we have to have some of these hard conversations in order for resolutions to be found. So,
Yep, absolutely. Well, Marcus, I hope we can
cool.
do this again at some point.
Yeah,
I'm sure
let's do it again sometime.
there's going to be no shortage of other things to talk about in the future, but hopefully better news that we can discuss
Yeah.
in the future.
Exactly.
Do you know? Do you have any insight, or going to give us a little tip here on any idea where you might go next, or any eyes on anything?
All I will say is that I'm still taking it very easy. I feel like I'm on this like new journey. I've been doing some consulting specifically around community, as I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, and I am just finding this so fascinating, right? Like, I mean, I operated for 20 years thinking like my skill sets, my understanding is video games and esports and all these things. But in the reality, I'm like coming out of the other end of Twitch, realizing like, wow, I have a lot of valuable community insight to be able to offer brands, and especially brands that are looking to like create or incept some community that was similar to Twitch. So I've really been enjoying that work, and I want to continue to explore it. So
Nice.
I don't have any concrete plans.
All right.
I'm kind of still like out and about, just kind of doing some consulting and whatnot. Obviously, I'm still streaming every once in a while, but you know, Zach, you'll be one of the first to know. But right now, I'm still like on my Stand By Me journey. We're going to find the dead body, and whatever happens along the way, we're just gonna roll with it.
I look forward to seeing what you do, and hopefully you don't end up in an NFT scam.
I can promise you that while I am very interested in the Web3 and NFT space, Zach, I know you know this because I've talked about it plenty on my stream. I am not bought into what is going on in the status quo. So I'm very curious to see where this space goes. But that's it.
Well, again, thank you so much, Marcus. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. And have a great day.
See you later.
We'll talk later. Peace, man. Bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click like, click subscribe up there, and then watch this video. What else you got to do? You're on YouTube anyways. You might as well watch something else. It's right there.